Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 374. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is currently the 5th of April. Yes, April. I have to make sure I'm getting that right. You know, sometimes I kind of slip and lapse on which day it is sometimes. Age now, man, trying out different things tonight. Yes, boy, you know how it goes. You're trying with the technology, you know, you're trying to see if it works, you know, if we could tweak, if we could get something better. It's a Friday. We were trying it out, to be very honest. Hotep, we were trying it out last night and it just failed totally. So, you know, we had to crash that last night, but we're re-attempting tonight. And who knows, if it doesn't work, we might up the RAM, increase on another PC and try another time. Alright though, what we're talking about is what we always talk about, the news. What's the current affairs that we see going on around us? I fell asleep last night. Well, you didn't miss anything there. Let's jump in straight over into the news, see what we're getting at. The news says that we're getting another new $100 bill, people. How long was it ago that we changed that last one? I feel like it wasn't that long ago, and they're telling us we're already setting up to get a new one. Central Bank to issue new $100 polymer notes. The Central Bank of TT plans to issue an update to the $100 polymer banknote at the end of the year. This was one of several plans listed in Strategic Plan 3.5-year update issued late in March. The central bank publication said the note will be similar to the current polymer $100 note, with clear windows that can be seen from the front and back. Note denomination in colored ink and raised dots to help the visually impaired. My group chat debating why they changed. Well, I don't have a group chat to debate that with, but I am wondering the same thing. Trini Hotep, I don't understand. I really don't understand. I'm kind of confused because as far as I understand it, we changed that just the other day. How are we changing it already? All right. It said there will be a few new security features. The first polymer $100 bill was used in 2019, some 5 years ago, along with notes in several other denominations. Central Bank said the banknotes have shown its durability compared to the cotton-based banknotes. The strategic plans also revealed its intention to dive deeper into cybersecurity, as it plans to build on current collaborations while it gains practical experience with cybersecurity supervision. Trinio says, to be honest, I think you would be a good addition to the group chat. Well. Jump in. But on a real, I'm confused. I saw economists on the news discussing this and saying that one of the benefits of this is that it's going to, you know, the dark money and those on the black market and the criminals with their dark money and all of that, it may do something and get rid of them, and they may have a more difficult time and all of that. And okay, maybe, but then for that to happen, are you telling me that we are going to have to exchange all the $100 notes again? Are we saying we are going to engage in this entire exercise all over again? We are going to go the whole hand up all your $100 notes, carry it to the bank and exchange it again? Because this news story, as I read it here, my assumption from this news story was that it's just like, you know, when they bring in another new bill from any other thing, and they're kind of slowly passing out the old bill and bringing in the new one. If that's the case, well, okay, I could probably deal with that. But if you're telling me again, what we're going to do is have to hand up all of the bills and hope to have them exchanged, that seems a brutal thing to put the country through again. J. McKing says like the 50. Yeah, I mean, if it's like the 50, then if it's like the 50 to me, then okay, whatever. Someone had a new design and they're really excited about their design and all of that, and okay, fine, you do your thing. No, I find we could, to me personally, my own opinion, we could switch back to the cotton bills. Like, I gave this polymer bill a good bit of time to grow on me. Initially, I hated it, but I was like, you know, maybe it's just me getting old. You know, that old age thing where you don't like the new things. And I'm like, okay, Nathan, let's behave ourselves like a nice young person with an open mind. Maybe the polymer bill is the better thing, and it will grow on you eventually. It hasn't grown on me. This polymer money is so sticky. You can't, you know how you could, with the cotton and the paper money, you just don't have the same feel with the money. The money doesn't have the same feel. And money without the same feel, it takes something away. I thought the $100 bill was nothing more than a rumor, but what the exact hell? Ryo says, well, bro, I don't know what the hell. Once you're all on the inside, obviously, as per usual, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok if you're wondering how to do it. There, double tap that screen. Get the likes pumping. Allow the algorithm to know, hey, this is some good stuff. This is some good stuff. Push this out there to more people. Hey, I have polls and stuff I could do, man. From this side of things. Look at that. But yeah, new money again. Personally, I would like to go back to my cotton dollars. My personal opinion. I was good with the cotton. I find we shouldn't have changed it. We could go back to it. But apparently we're changing again. Now, as I said, it was an economist that spoke about the benefits being that they're going to trap dark money and all of that. I don't know if it's going to be an issue where we all have to send in all the money and get it exchanged again. I don't know. I hope not. But I guess we're waiting to see. Recently, I saw one of the ministers speaking on child labor laws, and I spoke before on this. The views could be a bit controversial sometimes, but I hope you understand what I'm saying in the context I'm saying it. I feel to some extent, children need to work more. Honestly, I think to some extent, children need to work more. And many of our societies are overdoing it on the length of time we allow children to just be of no productive benefit to the society. That's my opinion. Now, that's not saying that I think children should be removed from schooling, not be allowed some time to enjoy their childhood and all of that. But I'm saying that the institutionalized nature of the schooling as it stands right now, I think is probably, we have overcorrected on one side, and maybe we need a little change back to the more work for the youths. Opinion. That's my opinion. You could think it wrong. It's just my opinion. But recently we had a minister coming out and they're discussing laws to get in there to deal with child labor. Kojo Lewis, educate adults about child labor. Sport and Community Development Minister Shamfa Kojo-Lewis says more needs to be done to educate adults about what child labor is and how to prevent it. Kojo-Lewis spoke at a public inquiry into child labor held by members of the Parliament's Human Rights, Equality and Diversity Committee at the Red House on April 5th. The committee questioned representatives from the Police Children's Authority, Labour Ministry and the Gender and Children's Affairs Division of the Office of the Prime Minister. After listening to comments by authority representatives about its outreach initiatives to educate children about their rights under the law on child labor, Kojo-Lewis asked whether this focus needed to be widened. She suggested that the authority direct some of its attention towards parents and grandparents in their 50s and 60s who may not have a full understanding of child labor. According to the International Labour Organization, child labor is work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children and interferes with their schooling. You see, these things become problematic when we take them from international organizations. Can we internationally agree on what is going to be mentally dangerous and harmful? Is that something that the international community can agree on? Because I'm quite certain that there are some people in the international community may consider some things to be instrumental lessons in teaching their children morality and how to grow in the proper sound way according to God's leading, while there may be some other more secular people who may think that's indoctrination, brainwashing, and backward thinking. You're teaching the children superstition. So how do we get an international agreement on what is mentally dangerous and harmful? So, okay, maybe physically might be easier to agree on. Physically might be easier to agree on what exactly we might deem as being physically dangerous and harmful to a child. That might be so, but even on the physical level, you do understand that internationally we don't all agree on what might be physically harmful for a child. There are some religions that snip off pieces. It makes it sound very macabre, but pieces of babies, male babies. And some people consider that to be physical abuse. Some people consider it to be key in obeying their religion. Hey Nisi, what going on? What going on here on the inside? I see you see us. We are new and improved in these parts. What you think, Nisi? How we looking? We could read together now. So now when I'm reading, you don't have to be confused. People don't have to pop in and jump in the lives asking, what is he reading? Where is he getting this from? Now you can see it too. Yeah. So can we agree? As I was saying, we can't agree. Obviously, we can't agree on what is mentally dangerous and harmful. That's not going to be an internationally agreed thing. We can't even agree on what is physically harmful, because there are some differences on that too. And then when you get into socially and morally, we're clearing it fully out there. Can we internationally agree on what might be socially or morally dangerous and harmful to children? I don't think we would have that agreement internationally. So in that case, how does the minister suggest that we teach parents and adults about child labor? How do you suggest we do that? If by very definition, the definition that the International Labour Organization puts out there for the world is something that the world won't agree on. So then basically, if we are to go according to this, the understanding there would be that child labor would be a different thing according to which society you might be in. And really and truly, I might not mind that. That's kind of the idea of independent countries, that different countries could run themselves how they see fit. And in that case, you really can't use an international definition for that. The minister went on. Kojo Lewis recalled that many parents do not see things such as having their children do chores as child labor, but as lessons for them in certain life skills. This requires a whole change in thinking and a whole shift in culture. Kojo Lewis did not believe it was necessary for parents who are business owners to take their children out of school to have them learn the family business. We have to show the negative effect of pulling children out of school. And listen, Alia, listen. I am firmly in the opposing camp to this minister here. Good evening, Skafti. I am firmly in the opposing camp. The minister is saying, we don't want parents taking their children out of school to teach them the family business and all of that. I 100% disagree. I think it's insane that we have developed a world now where parents believe what is best for my child is not for me to teach my child, but for me to give my child to strangers that will somehow train my child in the way I want my child to grow up. I think that's ridiculous. And I think, especially when you look at countries that went down this road that the minister is speaking about and went further down this road than we have, you look at some of those countries and you don't want the results that those countries have. Those F you mom and F you dad children. Why do you think the children have zero respect for the parents? Because the parents have never shown themselves to be in a respectable position. You send those children off to a school to be institutionalized till they're 24. And somehow we believe that's the more moral thing. Why? Where did that come from? Who made this rule that the better thing for my child is to be separated from me for as long as possible and be taught about life from strangers? Who said so? To me, I think we should be encouraging things in the other direction. I don't think the children are lacking schooling. I think if we were to look across the landscape of young people across the nation, I don't think the problems facing young people is a lack of access to schooling. It might be a lack of community, a lack of proper familial relationships, a lack of parenting. And maybe getting some of those children to work with adults might actually solve some of these things. I know guys with very little schooling with successful businesses and they manage it themselves. Yes, they do. They do that because their parents taught them. You know, it's kind of marvelous to me sometimes the way some people learn. They went through life, they got success without having to be institutionalized, and somehow they believe, or they were convinced, that for their next generation, the only way their next generation succeeds is by sending them miles away to school. That's ridiculous. You look, I saw there was a fire at HSM, the car dealership in Central near me, and that dealership, looking at that dealership and many other businesses, there are many other businesses like that in Central, where that dealership has actually been around for a very long time, but they have blown up, they have expanded exponentially, especially particularly when it seemed like the younger generation took over. The parents may have started it, they were doing as good as they could, but then they taught their younger generation. The younger generation came, took it over with fresh ideas, and the company exploded. And I'm seeing, when I look around, especially the Central region, because you know the demographics and unique demographics in Trinidad, you see that entrepreneurial spirit, and you see that so often where, okay, the parents had their business and they could have only taken it so far, but they introduced the child at a young age, and the child was able to expand it exponentially. Back when Bhagwan Singh was the same thing. If you read the story of Bhagwan Singh, now deceased, if you read her story and how it happened, she was the child of a hardware owner. She was put there to run the hardware, found she had a knack for it, and expanded it to what it is now. So no. Bhagwan Singh's father should not have taken her and put her in the hardware. He should have sent her to go to school. And after her bachelor's, do a master's, and after the master's, do a PhD, and after the PhD, go and get a state job that they give you a little experience. And then by the time you're 40, maybe, who knows, you look back and see what your family business has become. Does that make sense? Like, I don't find that makes sense. And a long time now, I think a problem we have had is that we are attempting to deal with modern problems with the same old lens. We are looking at the modern problems with the same old lens like they were the problems that existed in 1990. Or sorry, in 1900. But they really are not. I think child labor now is not of the same nature. When you're talking about child labor in a country like ours, it's not the same nature as when it first came about dealing in the industrial age and in arable communities, farming communities. I just don't think that's the same thing. It's a whole different ball game you're dealing with when you're talking about child labor in this context. And I think we need to deal with it in this context. Karim Delpesh says, night folks, so the new notes can be used with the old. If so, why change them? I don't know. I don't know if the new would be used with the old. I don't know that. Good night, Moses George, over there on TikTok. Yeah, I think we're looking at some of these new problems with old lens, with old eyes, looking at child labor as if we're talking about the industrial age, where children are being sent off to factories to break their backs for 10, 12 hours a day. But that's not what we're talking about here. I think, like, when you look at the senior secondary schools and see what they did, to these schools, and it's kind of ironic, because we're looking to solve issues, and I think we're undoing some of the solutions we already had to them. These senior secondary schools taught the trades, so that someone could have gone to senior secondary school, started off learning a trade, probably left that and go and become an apprentice and start working. Now we kick that out. So even the prospect of someone under the age of 20 gaining enough skill to be gainfully employed, that's nearly impossible. And I don't think that's a positive thing. People are starting, I think they did us millennials and Gen Z, they did us an injustice. The boomers and old Gen Xers who were our parents, they did us an injustice. They coddled our generations for so long until people are 35 and now starting their lives. I saw someone, somewhere I was reading this, and someone was talking about, oh, I think it was a video, we are millennials, we are waiting till we become parents, we are waiting till 35 and over, and and they think that these things are just fungible and you could do as you will, and etc. You have a limited amount of time you're going to live. I think people are starting their lives too late in our generations. Hopefully the coming generations, they are able to rectify some of the mistakes we made. You're not now supposed to be looking up from your school textbook at 35, wondering who is going to be your husband or wife, wondering which job you're going to do, wondering where you're going to make a child, looking to be a parent who watches your child graduate with your pension check. That to me, that's not the ideal. Anonymous says there are parents who would take advantage of child labor. I find those statements ridiculous. I find those statements ridiculous. If you're talking about a parent who is wicked enough to abuse their child into overworking them, do you think that parent cared about the child labor laws? Like, what are we talking about? If the parent is a wicked parent, the parent is a wicked parent. The laws aren't going to solve that and stop that and fix that. So I just don't get that reasoning. That somehow the state is supposed to protect children from their parents because we are to believe that the state has the better interest of children than their parents. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't buy it. I know they are horrible parents, but they are edge cases. In the majority, in the main, the people who would best take care of a child's interest are their family. That has been the nature of humanity since time immemorial. Family, gene, lineage, competition, and conflict. Moses George says, is it that older generation hold to their ideas and push them to validate their own choices? Yes, 100%. That's why there are a bunch of 40-year-old single women with no children that look at and they're bitter and they're on antidepressants and they look at their 20-year-old selves and tell them, do the same thing I did. And they know that's horrible advice. So yes, that's partly true. And with the boomers, part of the problem with them is that they held on to power. They got a taste of power in the 1980s. And they never let it go. That's part of the issue. The boomers have held on to power for too long. They aren't retiring. They aren't going to sit in their rocking chair and sap their knee. And I mean, it's kind of convenient that they don't have grandchildren to... It's kind of convenient that they don't have grandchildren to see about because they encourage their children to become geriatric parents. So they don't really have much grandchildren. The millennials don't have very much children. It all works well for them and all the power stays in their hands. I mean, why are we looking at 70 and 80-year-old people still going up for elections? They are supposed to be advisors. No one is supposed to be trying to kick them out of a party. They are supposed to be making the way out on their own and welcoming in younger generations. But no, not the baby boomers. Those septuagenarians and octogenarians, they want power till it must be removed from their dead rigor mortis grasp. And I think that's part of the problem. I think that might be part of the problem. We still running here. I saw the live dropped a bit there. Still up and running. You know, at the start of the live last night, as we heard that they found back the 3 girls right behind the house where they were. I saw that story and, you know, I just read it and to get a general idea, and it's a kind of mysterious one. Because initially I was wondering, they found these girls right behind the house. What kind of look were they looking? But when you read the story, it seems much more like it seems like the girls were somewhere else and someone returned them to behind the house. Sketchy. Cops probing why 3 girls left Rio Claro home. More than 24 hours after they went missing, two Rio Clara sisters and their cousin were found next door to their family's home in an abandoned house. They are now receiving counseling as police probe the circumstances surrounding their disappearance. Like, I mean, I don't want to sound mean or bad, but is counseling a euphemism for investigations are ongoing and they are being interviewed too? Because to me, in such cases, you may need a little more than just counseling. We need to find out some stuff too. Clary Thomas said he was part of the search party seeking to locate the girls, but got an inclination to stay close to the abandoned house. He said someone saw a shadow by the property and he went to investigate. Using the light from his phone, he ran to the house, opened the gate and saw someone attempt to hide. Another member of the search party was with him. He told him to go to the left side of the property while he went to the right side. He said he saw the three girls whom he knew behind a car in the garage area. When they see me, they start to smile. I say, don't smile, this is a serious matter. And they start to cry, he said. This is just very strange. And the entire search team says that basically they were searching that entire area all the time. They searched behind that very same house and they didn't see those girls there, so they have no idea how they got there. The interesting thing too is that the ages are 17, 13, and 12. I mean, the 13 and 12 are pairs, but that 17-year-old girl is well out of the pair range of those other two for those ages. Like, I think these kind of cases, it should end in an arrest. It should end in an arrest. Unless it is that these girls just ran away. But if they ran away to some location with someone else, I just find someone should be in jail after all of this. You shouldn't be able to traumatize the country and put us through all of this and nothing takes place after. Jumping straight into crime though, murder account coming out from Malik. Murder victims relative take draconian measures against gangs. Are we still running over there on TikTok? Are we still up and running, making sure? Take draconian measures against gangs, the family member says. A relative of a 17-year-old boy who was killed in Malik Barrett area says it is time the authorities take extreme measures to deal with gangs. Speaking with the media at the Forensic Center, his family was inconsolable as they said they could not understand why he had been targeted. The young man was murdered in his gallery. The relative said Hercules was his mother's only child and was never involved in any gang activity. He said Hercules was studying to become a certified electrician, was skilled with his hands and already capable of fixing air conditioners and refrigerators. The family is devastated as they say Hercules was living his dream and had his whole life ahead of him. The relative said gang warfare in Malik was spiraling out of control. You have a man warring a man 4 streets away. That don't make sense. They're killing one another when they swing in the area and catch whoever outside. When is that going to stop? He said the gang leaders in the area were using the youth as pawns. He said the two known gangs in the area are supposed to be under a truce, but it is not being respected. It have no integrity in that truce. How you could get integrity from them kind of people? They have no integrity, so it's no peace. He said anyone could be a victim of gang warfare in the area. Whoever they catch outside, your daughter, your son, whoever outside when they pass, if crime continued on this trajectory, he said, residents of Malik will soon have to abandon their homes. The government can't help it. The most they can do is manage crime. They can't stamp it out. The horse already leave the stables. The horse gone long time and they're now trying to pull it back. He said has built a 40,000 capacity mega prison to house gang members. Although critics have accused Bukele's administration of flouting prisoners' rights, he remains popular and was re-elected in February with more than 80% of the vote. El Salvador is now considered one of the safest countries in the Western Hemisphere after its murder toll dropped from 2,398 in 2019 to 154 in 2023. And that's what the relative is referring to when speaking about draconian measures. Things like El Salvador. Now, the El Salvador doesn't come easy. You don't get what El Salvador gets straightforward. You're going to have to trust some leader with an immense amount of power for them to go through doing this. Bear in mind, in order for the El Salvadorian leader to have done this, he had to arrest not only the criminals, he had to arrest politicians too. I read somewhere in one specific state or city, he arrested nearly all the politicians from there because of the rampant corruption. Will we as a nation be okay with that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine for a second? Mrs. Prasad Bisesa comes into power and starts arresting Mr. Hines, Mr. Imbert, a whole batch of police, the entire guard and emergency branch senior division is arrested. Would the country be able to handle that? I get the feeling like maybe Trinidad mightn't be cut out to take things like that. We speak as though we want it, but I'm not sure we're cut out to handle things like that. Hey, I know I'm sticking, but I don't know if anyone is seeing me still. Y'all still over there? Y'all still seeing me? Sticking or not? All right, it seems like TikTok is sticking a whole lot now. It seems like we're well past the point of reasonable use. All right, thank you guys for tuning in nonetheless. This was the Mindful Live experimental edition, Mindful Live 374 experimental edition. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be Monday starting around that 9 p.m. time. So until then, people, stay safe. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained nonetheless. And until then, people, stay safe. Bye.